Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be about how do you not let the physical symptoms freak you out? Not just physical symptoms, but all symptoms. And I had someone comment or ask this question in a comment, so I wanted to address it in a video. But before I get into the details, I just wanted to mention that I am offering one-on-one coaching for those who need it at lower rates than other places you might find online. I offer a free 15-minute consultation, 30-minute calls, 60-minute calls, and then I did put together session packages if you're wanting to do something a little bit more regularly at a further discounted rate. So if you're interested in checking that out, I will leave the link to my online booking calendar in the description of this video. I also will leave the link to my website if you're interested in learning more about my story. I have it on there, and you can also check out my session packages and my services on there with links to booking as well. And I will put my email address in the description. If you have a single question you'd like to ask me, please just limit it to one single question, as I'm finding it difficult to have time to answer lengthy emails at this point. So anyway, I will get into the video now. So someone had asked me about how do you not let the physical symptoms freak you out? And I want to address all symptoms because some have physical, some have mental, and some have both. So if you're unfamiliar with my story, I definitely was someone who had both. In my first withdrawal from long-term SSRI use, I had physical and mental, but the physical wasn't very severe, but the mental was quite bad. It was very consistent. It never let up. And that's why I reinstated at 2.5 years off. But then everything just exploded when I reinstated. I ended up taking 8 different drugs, antipsychotics, more antidepressants, benzos, and anticonvulsants. And I had adverse reactions to all of them. And then it felt like my physical symptoms just exploded. Well, it didn't feel like it. They did explode. I developed akathisia, movement disorder, muscle jerking, pulsating, electricity, burning, all of the horrible sensations, burning brain, burning body, just terrible symptoms, insomnia. I guess that's more of a mental, well, that could be mental or physical, I guess, but I just want to address it. So I'll be honest, in the first year, at least for me, it was the first year. I know everybody's journey looks different. Some people really find the first year difficult. Some actually have a more difficult second year, but these people all eventually recover. But in the first year for me, or when I felt the worst, that was when there was not much I could do to prevent myself from freaking out other than call my supports. So everybody that I talk to one-on-one, I say, you need support. So there's people in your life, like in your real life, that you can physically touch. Maybe some people can't even handle touch, and that's understandable. I talk to people who can't handle touch, and I was someone who, I wouldn't say I couldn't handle touch, but I was just so in my symptoms all the time that I wasn't looking to embrace anybody. But I think, it's different having someone in your physical world, because then you can exchange that energy and you might have an embrace. I don't know. But they're the people that you see every single day. And that's really important. Although I know some people don't have that, or did have it and now don't. But I think I know that there's 2 branches to this. So there's having those real life supports. And if you don't have those, that doesn't mean you're screwed, because there are people that don't. But also you need to have support of people who have been through this. So this could take different forms. It could be healing buddies. It could be a support coach. It could be, I don't know, just talking to someone that you met in one of the forums that's already healed. So it's very, very important, because the people in your real life, they don't understand. As well intentions as they might be, as much as they might research or read the stories you show them or watch the videos you show them, they don't understand it at the same level that someone who's been through it does. So it's super important to have both. And like I said, again, not everybody has the in-person support, so that they need the online support even more so. But everybody, I believe, needs both types of support if possible. So there's that. That's basically like when I was at my worst, that was all I did all day long, other than walking. So I would basically walk and connect to my supports all day long. And I'm not kidding, it was all day long, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And my mom, like, before I founded, I shouldn't say founded, but I guess created this group, my mom was just tired of hearing it. I was already in my second withdrawal at this point, and she had been dealing with me for 2 years. My first year of my first withdrawal, I was living elsewhere, and then things just got worse and worse. I moved home with my mom and dealt with it for 2 years, and then I reinstated, and then all hell broke loose. And she's just like, I'm just so tired of hearing about this every day, all day long. So, and because I was so bad in that second withdrawal, I needed support. So I formed this video chat support group with about 8 or 9 other women who were all very bad as well. And we would just hop on and off video calls all day long. Sometimes the whole group of us would be on, and sometimes it would just be one other person, but usually someone was available to talk all day long if you needed it. And that was my lifeline. I've said that over and over and over. Like, those women kept me alive. And that was the most important part when I was at my worst. And I mean, there were times where I was freaking out, but I could just connect to that support. And I think that is the most important thing. Once you get a little bit further in your journey, or where you're able to do something else other than, connect to support or be on forums or whatever, I think it's, you learn coping skills along the way, or I hope you learn coping skills along the way. That's where a coach can be very, very helpful, is to help you develop some coping skills. There's a lot of different ones. For me, I was always reminding myself, there are people who have recovered from this. There are people who have recovered. If it was the middle of the night and everybody, or my mom was asleep and everybody in my support group was unavailable, or they were asleep or trying to sleep, sometimes they would be online anyway, but we typically talk during the day. One thing that I would do would be to hop in the shower. For some reason, like if my jerking was really, really bad, or I felt just the intense pulsating, thrashing, churning inside my body, the restlessness, I would hop in the shower. For some reason, heat made me feel better. I know some people, maybe this is more people who experience a lot of pain. They just cover their bodies in ice. I've heard of a lot of people doing that. For me, it was heat. Sometimes I would sit in my room and I have a space heater. I actually have it beside me, and it makes the room really, really hot. I would sit under blankets and I would put the space heater on and just try to stop my body from buzzing. And I had outward tremors and inward tremors. You can see that in my video short. And so the heat for some reason helped me, but water heat was even better. So if I was able to jump in the shower, or I didn't really bath, I had to be in the shower where the heat was pulsating on my back. That was something that helped. And I just was constantly trying to remind myself, although I had no space in my brain to even think really, because the intrusive thoughts were so severe and just looped all day long, and hallucinations. But I had so much of the physical jerking in the first 6 months, especially after I was polydrugged, that the water was really, really helpful. And I just walked and walked and walked and walked. And so that was how another way that I helped to get through all of the not even just unpleasant, intense sensations that went through my body, was walking. So I did a lot of that, but I needed to be distracted while I walked because my mental was so bad that I would connect to my support. It was just integral for me to get through that first year. And so I encourage everybody that I talk to find support and pull from support whenever they can. And that can be all day long for some people. It was for me, not just the support, but the hope, and the more people you have, the better. So, I mean, a coach is good because they've already come out the other side. But if you have current, supports of people who are also trying to heal, the more you have, the better. But I realize that sometimes you can be triggering for one another. So for me, having a group of people was really helpful, because chances were, if even 9 out of 10 of us were really, really bad, there was one person that was having a little bit of a better day and could pull the rest up. We also had a mentor, a lady who was very gracious with her time, and a lot of you people probably know her. I won't say her name here, but she recovered from a brutal polydrugging, akathisia, all of that stuff. And she would hop on when the people who were on the call we were all really bad. A lot of times she would make a lot of effort to come on and just give us all hope. And we were all in tears, and some of us, screaming, pacing. It was just everything. Like, all of us were going through so much. So that's a big part of it. And just the constant reminders, like telling yourself, clinging to the success stories, clinging to the hope that people who have gone before you, that's a big part of it too. Because I tell people, or I often think, people who are so bad, I just think, they could turn the corner any day now, because there's so many people like myself who are bad, and then start kind of getting windows and waves after a long time, and then just bang, it's like recovery just goes like this quickly. I've heard that happening to a lot of people. That's what happened to me. Some people heal overnight. It's just crazy how this all works. But that was, just constantly telling myself, and pulling from my supports when I couldn't tell myself. I'm like, this is such bullshit. I'm never going to heal. I'm done. Like, I'm checking out. I'm making a plan. I'm done. Like, I'm sorry if that's triggering, but I went through that. And so that's really important. I'm going to try to think if there was anything else that I did to not freak out. I couldn't do deep breathing and all of those things that I guess if you're just in a regular stress state, like meditation, and I couldn't do that. For me, I had to be actively distracting as much as I could. And that was where the conversations with people was really helpful. Later on, like I started doing things like swimming, like gliding through the water because it helped my uncontrollable movements. But the water was really helpful. The shower, the heat, those were really it until I started getting to a place where I was getting more windows, and then I could focus on other things that were good for my body. So more exercising or grounding or being actually around and doing more social things in real life. I've made other videos about how I recovered and things that helped me in a wave, and you can watch those if you're interested. I won't get into all of those details here, but that was how. And I think too, like once you get further along, you can sort of, not always, like there's not always rhyme or reason or patterns, but you can convince yourself more easily that this is going to end. So especially if you're someone with windows and waves, or maybe you don't have windows and waves. I didn't in my first one, but if you go into windows and waves, you always know that reprieve is eventually going to come. So you go into a wave, and over time you get kind of good at telling yourself and knowing and understanding that it's going to end. You're going to come out of it probably better than you were before you went into it. So that also can be really helpful. But if I don't know everybody's specific situation. If you're someone who doesn't have windows and waves, it can be more difficult, but that's where you got to pull from your support. You got to pull from the success stories. You've got to, everything that you have to pull from. And I'm serious. Like, I cannot stress that enough. So, and knowing that some people do go through the whole thing with no windows at all and then have a quick recovery. You have to trust that can happen, because I've seen it happen. It does happen. But that's about the best tips that I can give. I hope that's helpful. If you have any other questions, let me know. Let me just think if I'm missing anything. If there was things that I did not to freak out. Yeah. That was the main things. And yeah, once you get further along, there's a little bit different coping skills, but in the beginning, it's support, drawing from the hope and the hot water and the showers, and just trying to tell myself over and over and over, this is going to end one day. And one thing too, I should say, that helped me particularly was almost letting all of the adrenaline and everything going through my body fight and say, pharma is not going to win. I remember just telling myself that over and over. And just when I was in a rocking state and I was just freaking out and on the phone with my supports, something would just, they would talk me through things, and then I would just be like, they're not going to win. And it'd be streaming through my tears, or I would have just been hitting my head on a wall, just make the mental stuff stop, like make it stop. And then I would just be like, no, they're not going to win. And that's the best tips that I have. I don't know how helpful that is, but yeah. Okay, so I'm going to splice this video into my other one, because I realized afterwards that I forgot to mention another thing that I used to do when I was freaking out over symptoms. So I would get on my bed, not always, but often would get on my bed, and I would take this stuffed animal, which actually is the one that I was given on the ambulance ride when I was going to the psych ward. So I would grasp onto this really tightly, and I would lay on my bed and kind of roll back and forth or rock back and forth, and I would sing to myself. And somehow that made me feel a little bit of comfort. It made me calm down just a little bit. So that was something that worked for me. I don't know if that's something that would be helpful for others. Another thing is I would turn the TV on. So when I was really bad, I didn't watch TV, but I would want to have sometimes sound on in the background, and I would put it on a nostalgic TV show, a comedy, something that I used to watch back when I was younger. And I was trying, or maybe grasping at straws, to teach my brain and my body to go back into that state that I used to be in when I was normal. I always had this obsession with, I want to feel, well, not just the obsession with I want to feel normal, but I want to go back to the way things were before I took the medication. I want to feel those feelings, have those thoughts, have a normal brain, do normal things. And I was hoping on some level, subconsciously, consciously, that having that in the background would be able to take me back to that state somehow. So those are just another couple of tips that I used to use when I was really struggling. Let me know in the comments what you do to try to help stop yourself from freaking out, even though it can be absolutely impossible. I understand that. But if you have any tips that anybody else could find useful, let me know in the comments. Let them know in the comments. And if you have any other ideas for videos or things you want me to cover, let me know and I'll try to get to them. And I wish you guys well. I hope you're doing okay, and I'll see you next time. Bye.